Meeting on April 17th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. We have one item on the agenda this evening, order number 23-100-9129, communication from Mayor Dumas together with two transfer requests from Economic Development to Marlborough Economic Development Corporation in the amount of $762,465 to fund the FY 2025 operating budget and $150,000 to replenish the existing toolbox fund to continue support MEDC Small Business Financial Incentive Grant Program. I will begin by reading the letter submitted by the mayor. Dear Council President Ossing and councilors, enclosed for your review and approval are two transfer requests from Economic Development to the Marlborough Economic Development Corporation, MEDC, in the amount of $762,465 to fund the operating budget and $150,000 to fund the existing toolbox program. The Marlborough Economic Development Corporation is a recognized leader in the Commonwealth in business development, support, and attraction, which allows us to maintain low commercial vacancy rate. MEDC also continues to prioritize innovation and community support as seen through their pop-up shop initiative, toolbox program, food truck, arts festival, and on-the-ground small business support. Included for your review is the FY 25 operating budget and narrative from Executive Director Meredith Harris. The two transfers are also included for your review and approval. Executive Director Meredith Harris and I will be available at a future meeting to answer any questions you may have. Sincerely, J. Christian Dumas, Mayor. With that, if Director Harris would like to come up. Good evening. If you would like to give a bit of a narrative on your budget and the future of MEDC, and then we can, if we have any questions.
Absolutely, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all tonight. Linda Martins is also with me up here, Director of Operations, to answer any questions that you might have. I did just want to go over a couple of bullet points, successes, things that we're proud of from last year that we'd like to share with all of you, and then we'll open it up to any questions that you might have.
Thank you.
In my letter, I'm sure that you've all read it, but did just want to point out that the pop-up shops, we last year had 20 unique vendors that came through this small business incubator program, which we're really excited to see that actually one of the folks that was in the sheds, Vibes Candles, is now opening a storefront on Main Street. So we were really excited about that last year. The toolbox, we threw a lot of numbers at you guys in that letter, but happy to say that we had 6 approved applications in 2023, accounting for $89,200 for small business support. In 2024 already, we've had 5 approved applications, which accounted for another $80,385. In addition to that, we were able to help attract Moderna, which you're all very familiar with, but that was at 149 Hayes Memorial Drive, bringing a $350 million investment to the city, adding 60,000 square feet to the existing 140,000 square foot shell. Also helped Sartorius grow in Marlborough at 200 Donald Lynch Boulevard with a $100 million investment, taking 60,000 square feet. Obviously, that was with your help with the 2 TIFs that we were able to secure last year. So thank you for that. We did 20 business meetings with the mayor and over 200 company attraction and retention meetings in addition amongst the team. We added 350 new jobs to the market in 2023, saw $3.1 million in new growth, launched a workforce attraction commercial that aired in 6 different geozones across New England to help employers attract talent, continued to bolster school-to-business partnerships, facilitating a new program launched between MPS and Technium, live-streamed our 43rd episode of Exploring Economic Development with MEDC podcast just last week. We hosted 159 hotel, restaurant employees for Serve Safe Tip CPR training courses, all free of charge for the employees of the city. Hosted the 2nd annual Restaurant Week, doubling participation from the previous year, and hosted the 4th annual Food Truck and Arts Festival downtown with a $15,000 grant from the Mass Cultural Council. So those are just a few things that I wanted to touch upon. Would be happy to take any questions that you all have on the budget itself.
Thank you, Meredith. I will open up to the finance and then to the rest of Council Brown.
Thank you, Chairman Irish, and thank you, Meredith and Linda, for joining us, and Lindsay. So when I first read the letter and was reviewing the budget, of course, when you see, almost a 10% increase, you're like, oh my goodness. But I really, going through the budget items, I feel like you were really careful with how you were allocating, but the things that stood out to me the most, and I know you already mentioned Vibes Candles, I feel like since I've joined the council, I personally have seen a lot of what MEDC brings to the city, and so when reviewing budget items, one of the things I do consider is, is this a department or a program that, costs a lot of money, and is it a spending program? So you do have operating costs, but I feel like your group brings so much to the city besides just things to do and places to work and live and shop. It just on a revenue basis that you're really bringing things into the city. And I wasn't sure about the pop-up shops at first. I think, all of us were kind of holding our breath and waiting, but I was so excited when I saw the announcement that Vibes Candles would be moving in.
We were too.
Yes. So I feel like I've just seen over the course of the last couple of years the dedication that you and your team have for the economic development of the city, and there are tangible successes. So when I reviewed it, I feel like the toolbox program, going to the 150,000, the variety of businesses and types of businesses that have received the grants in 2023 and 2024, I feel like it speaks to that it's something for anybody who might want to try. It's not just one type of business, so I really don't have any questions. I feel like I went through this and I really, really weighed what MEDC does for the city, and I appreciate you guys, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Good points. And I may add that last year's budget, you had a surplus for FY 2024 with your good budgeting and doing some other cuts that you, because of COVID and incentive programs. So I want to make that known. Councilor Vital.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Meredith, you and your staff are extremely humble when it comes to all that you do for our city. And virtually, I started listing them, and there were just so many ways that you touch our city that I couldn't list them all. I mean, I really couldn't. But what I really want to talk about that a lot of folks may not know about is that your personal and your team's involvement in the schools, specifically about uniting the schools. Up about 7 years ago, the mayor and I had a conversation about how we had this opportunity in town to bring the schools together, right? We had Assabet and Marlborough High that were a mile apart from each other, but they never did anything together outside of sports. No professional development, no sharing of resources and best practices. When I brought the idea to Meredith, she said right away, you can use my conference room, you can do whatever you can. And in that initiative, we now have the 3 high schools plus the New England Innovation Academy that are working on projects all year long. The commissioner from DESE came last year and called Marlborough an educational mecca. And a lot of that is attributed to Meredith. Meredith, you've been an MC for panel discussions about careers. You've done so, just recently, you were a major factor on a very, very successful career expo at the mall, where we brought not only the schools together, our schools, but other schools, and the mall, and the chamber, everyone working together as a partner. It would be a dark day that MEDC wasn't involved in our community here in Marlborough. And I just want to thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Councilor Vital. Councilor Facile.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you guys for being down here tonight. I can remember my first time being employed with the city of Marlborough, and upstairs it was always, if you didn't know the answer to something, call MEDC, because they probably have the answer. So No, it's been great to review this budget, and I do have just a quick question, and I'd love to hear you guys talk a little bit more about the toolbox, because that was a program that I was a little unfamiliar with before this. And first off, just going to your website and having those numbers available, the numbers that you've provided for us here, really helped kind of get me familiar with that program. And reviewing what you'd said a minute ago, 350 jobs created in 2023. And I think I'm correct in saying we retained 80 jobs and added approximately 290 just from the Toolbox program alone. Could you elaborate a little bit about that?
Yeah, so just to be clear, the 350 jobs, that is only Moderna and Sartorius. So the numbers that you're talking about through the small business, we do like to be conservative in the numbers that we're putting out there just to be safe, but that would be in addition to Sartorius and Moderna, the 350 plus what you're talking about.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. And then just a little bit about the Toolbox program and kind of how it's helped the city and some of those small businesses.
Yeah, so Linda and I were just talking before we came up that if we have a group that's in front of the executive committee tomorrow, if that is to be approved, that will be the 30th small business that's been helped through the Toolbox program since it was born in 2015. We've really been able to expand the program. It started out with kind of 3 different programs. Right now we have 4 programs in the Toolbox plus the revolving loan fund, but we're able to offer rental assistance. We offer, it's a reimbursement grant for equipment, different types of things, beautification for existing businesses, and then we have one that's called kind of the small business incentive, which is based off the TIF program. But we found, and this is really the whole genesis of why we started the program, was the TIF program is great for the Sartoriuses and the Modernas that are coming to the community, but we have a lot of mid-size, smaller to mid-size blocks of space that still need to be filled. And typically a company that's coming in that's a small to mid-size is not going to trigger that TIF at the state level. You have to be making a significant improvement into capital investment into your property to trigger that assessment change. So we really decided to come up with this program so that we could also offer incentives to the small to mid-size companies that were coming in our opinion, are still adding tremendous value to the community.
Great. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Orm.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening. Good evening. You know I usually ask questions, and you know I have concerns about the whole structure. And I get it from my constituents who vote me into this seat every time I get back. So I'm grateful for my constituents, but I'm also grateful for what you do. Both of you are hard workers. Maybe someday we'll see you under the city umbrella. In my belief, that's where you belong. Okay, but that's not your decision. That's my decision, and everyone sitting in this room is legislators. Because I would hire you in a minute, and you too, Lindsay, because you're hard workers.
Thank you.
And I don't want that going unrecognized. That's so important. One, I think the accolades that were just mentioned, I was going to mention the Toolbox. Excellent program. You'll always have my support. Increasing that program, as you are requesting, from 100 to 150. But I noticed in it, different businesses get different amounts. What creates, like, one person got, I won't say the businesses, one business got 50 grand, but others got 12, 10. What is the difference in why there's some businesses getting more than others?
Sure. So first of all, it depends on the program that they're applying for. So each program, so we have 4 different programs where they each have a different threshold, and it is based on the level of investment that they're making in their space, the square footage that they're either taking or expanding into, the number of jobs that they're bringing to the community, and then also it depends on if there is a specific industry or a type of business that we're trying to attract for a specific area of the city. So in particular, downtown, looking for restaurants or different types of amenities, it's up to the subcommittee. So we have a subcommittee group that actually reviews all of the applications that we bring forward, and they determine the level of investment and impact that the business is going to have on the city of Marlborough. And so then they determine the recommendation for the executive committee.
And that subcommittee, are they all members of Marlborough, or are they members from different communities?
Nope, they're all either business owners, members of our board of directors, folks, many of the folks that you were familiar with, all of them, yeah.
But they have an interest in Marlborough. They may not live here, but they have an interest in Marlborough.
Absolutely.
Okay, well.
And we also have just a note to a banker that is on the committee and a CPA to review and make sure that the financials, and we're being, steadfast with the finances.
Again, I just was curious. I said, but now I understand you're trying to attract that, which phenomenal job going on with the trying to attract, because you see Hudson, I'd love to learn their formula, because I was just in Hudson, I think Tuesday or whenever, last week, phenomenal what they've done. I'm starting to see that creep into Marlborough, which I see the pop-ups being a factor, as you just mentioned. With the pop-ups, how did you manage that last year? I know you're asking for additional funding
Yep.
to manage the pop-ups. How did it happen last year?
So we had a $35,000 grant from the redo grant in a partnership with 495 Metro West partnership, Jason Palich and his group, and the Mass Office of Business Development. So they gave us grant funding to get the sheds up and running.
But who managed it in your house? I mean, you're asking us to grant you a full-time position.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about that. I'll be very frank with you right now. That's, in my view, I can't vote for that.
Okay.
I have other departments, we have other departments in this city who are looking at, why'd you give it to them but not us? We're going to go through some very difficult budget reviews coming up, and you're part of our budget reviews too, and that's why I don't want you to get offended in any way, but you had to manage it last year, and I was just curious how you managed it without this request for the full-time person.
Sure. So Lindsay in our office did a really great job of managing the pop-ups outside of her job description, but stepped up to really do a wonderful job of maintaining the pop-ups, staffing, making sure we had folks in there, porta potty calls, making sure that people on the weekends. There's a lot that goes into it, and quite frankly, it goes beyond what her job description is. And so the position that we're asking for is actually, last year was approved as a part-time position. So we're just asking for it to go from part-time to full-time to be able to help manage, in addition to our regular administrative operations in the office.
Understandable, but you have 3 full-time staff people right now?
That's correct.
And you're very busy, I understand that too. And we have other departments within the city who have 3 or less people, and they're very busy, and they're asking for more people. So understand where I stand too. I'm hearing it from all different areas, including our own departments within the city. We just saw something already within the assessors department. So, I mean, I just want you to understand, it's not Mark picking on MEDC.
Nope, it's your decision to make.
I have some other questions, but I know the accolades were made. I want to add one more. It's great that you're working with the chamber, and I just heard tonight before I got here that you're looking to offer grants to the chamber. So I know there's a chamber member here. I think that's a great offer. I hope to see more of that. I think you two almost have the same charge. You're selling the city, as you said on one of your most recent broadcasts, which you are, and they're supporting our businesses too, and they're selling our cities. So you both have almost the same route to take. So great effort to work with the chamber as you are. So I want to give you some accolades too. The tips you mentioned already, so I'm not going to say that again, but Cultural Council, working with them to have that food truck festival. Again, that coordinated effort is excellent. That's what I personally like to see, and I've had good times down there at the food truck festivals.
More to come.
Thank you. Question, what's our vacancy rate right now, and what's the difference from last year?
So the overall vacancy rate is 11.3%, and that is pretty much what we were last year. We've been able to maintain that
same.
vacancy rate between 10 and 12 over the last 5 years.
And I know you went through the COVID period, as we all did, so I know that was tough, but I was just curious what our vacancy rate was.
Yep, Mr. President.
11.7, thank you. Now, is that FY or is that a calendar, Mike, Mr. President?
How do you guys, it's calendar.
Calendar year.
Calendar, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. President. Let's see, you mentioned that, the toolbox we talked about. You said there's future items down the pipeline for the toolbox. Curious, what are these future items for the toolbox down the pipeline?
We can't talk about that
Oh,
publicly.
okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't want to get you in trouble either.
No, that's,
but-
I mean, a lot of it's companies that are either considering Marlborough, thinking about a move, but we really can't talk about that on the floor at this point.
Not a problem. But I would support going from the 100 to the 150. I think that toolbox program really hits where we should be hitting with economic development, attracting not just, great to attract large businesses, but we have to think about the small businesses as well, and which you are doing. So, thank you. You know, your rental, I think it's less than what they're paying at the cable station, but I didn't have a chance to compare, but you're paying about $45,750 a year for rental?
We pay just over $3,000 a month for rent.
Okay. It showed occupancy at $45,750 in your I don't know if occupancy means something else. Operation administrative expenses, occupancy, 45,750.
Well, if you multiply
Might be,
3 by 12,
might be a
it's
little more
probably,
than that. No, again, just another expense I'm looking at, saying, if you were in-house, although we're out of space, but we have to start thinking about the Walker Building and other places, could we save money?
Mr.
Yeah.
President?
So that includes the insurance and utilities. The lease is 3,600.
Oh, so the occupancy is insurance and utilities? Okay, because above it's contracted service and materials, so I'll make sure I add that to it. Thank you. Let's see, let's move on. We talked about the changes in the toolbox, how everyone gets a little different amount of money again to track downtown. I support that. Let's see. The senior administrator, you're looking to ask for 52,000?
that's correct.
Yeah, and we just talked about how you did it previously. It was done, but you had a grant for 35,000 as well. I was listening to you, but your total amount for your salary items, permanent, full-time, and all the rest of them is 384,115.
That's right.
Comparison to other departments in the city, that's a pretty healthy budget, but again, you work at it. You work hard for that money, and I'm not saying anything about that. I'm just comparing what we have to see when the city budget will be facing us in a month.
Again, point of
Yep.
information. And Councilor Warren, I'm doing this because I want to make sure you're presenting things accurately.
And that's fine by me.
Salary you picked on,
I didn't, Mr. President, I am not picking on anybody. I'm asking
Floor,
questions.
you shut up at
I
this
don't
point.
like the word pick.
Oh, well, you get your chance to debate it when I'm
I
done.
will.
Then fine for you. You are, and in my terms, picking because I've seen it year after year after year. It's okay, that's my opinion, you don't like it, you can choose your own words. But payroll includes payroll, benefits, and liability. When you compare a salary of a city employee, benefits and taxes and liability are not included. So to say they get paid more is not accurately portraying the items that are before us.
And I would ask that you go through the chair before you interrupt me. But I will.
I have
Mr.
the
Chair,
floor. You did not ask permission to speak,
I've been talking, Mr. Chair.
and I asked for a
have the
point of
floor.
information, and you're not allowed to interrupt me, Mr. Counselor Oram.
Let's get back
That's
on
fine,
track.
I'll continue, but
Let's
I
get back on
want
track.
this to be known as I started the conversation. These are questions because we will be doing the same thing at budget time. We will be asking the difficult questions. And I, as a counselor, am not afraid to ask the difficult questions. And if indeed it shows the bottom line, which it is, indeed it covers the rest of the salaries. It's not like, I'll clear it up, it's not like you two are making $385,000, or the three of you. There's other items in there, which will be for another day that I will be discussing in-house versus the setup we have. But that's going to take years and maybe a change of council. But again, that's for the future, not for you two to even have to deal with here. We're talking about what you presented for your budget. So we already discussed, and I don't know if it ticked people off, but I was asking about how we got through last year. And I said 35,000, as you noted from the grant, but they're asking for 52,000. And as I said earlier, it's troubling for me to support that when we already see it in other departments within the city where positions are difficult to get by.
Again, point of information. The council's making a comparison that's not correct. 35,000 to 52,000 is not correct. There's $40,000 for a part-time position. So it's a $12,000 adjustment, not from 35 to 52. So again, I'm all about making sure the information is portrayed correctly, not how the council wants to spin it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I'll say the bottom line, so that we know the bottom line, because that's how we compare city positions too. City position might come in at 100,000, but the bottom line might be 135,000. So I'll say the bottom line is 52,000. And let's see. I only have a few more questions, sorry. As it relates to the contracted services, is the bottom line total, the 40,900, is that, what's that in comparison to the previous year? Under
Second here.
page, I don't know what page it's on, but page 3-9, to help you out there. So it's the total of your contracted services for payroll, tax services, tech, fiscal end process, annual financial audit, CPA on retainer, that information there. If you don't have it, I can find out later. Just want to see what the comparison
There
was.
was 35,800 in FY '24.
Okay, thank you. Not many more questions. We talked about the lease agreement, and you did note, and I'm sorry, the 36.5. So, and that's on page 3-10, and then you have utilities and directors, and you knew that, and thank you for, not that, I missed that, because that was on a future page. Let's see, under business and retention and expansion, media buy branding campaign for $38,000. Can you explain that?
So that's all of our marketing. That's any of the materials that we put together. That's advertisements that we do in different publications. Really, any of our marketing that we do is under the Think Marlborough.
And when you say we do, is it you do it? I see you guys marketing all the time and having your shows and all that. But do you hire anyone to help out with the marketing?
Sometimes we'll hire somebody to create an ad for us,
Okay.
a creative, but other than that, no, it's us.
Okay, great. And that includes all the stuff up above, and I see your reach out. The, let's see, the $45,000 for the Phantom Gourmet, I wish the Phantom Gourmet came free, but I know you have to pay to have the Phantom Gourmet. Is that going to be something that we're just expecting to have every year?
Until the council or the executive committee determine that it has run its course.
Yeah, the last one they did was last March.
I'm sorry, what do you?
The Phantom Gourmet, the last show they did was,
We have an ongoing partnership with them where we're the only community in New England that they partner with.
Okay.
So we actually are doing shows in Instagrams and lives and Facebook, all kinds of added value that we do on a daily, weekly basis with them.
that's fine. I didn't realize. I thought it was only the TV show, so it's more than that.
It's more than,
Okay.
we're also advertising with them every Saturday and Sunday morning on their show.
Thank you. And another question, the services of a city planner. You see that on page 3-11 at the bottom. City planning services, request for $50,000. How much did you spend of that last year?
We've spent down almost our entire budget.
And what was the projects last year that the city planning services provided?
Donald Lynch Boulevard was one. We
Okay.
worked on the MBTA communities was another, different projects that have come up.
And when you choose those programs, do you involve the city council, or is that
We
determined by?
do not choose the programs. You guys come to us with
Okay,
those requests.
so you're getting direction from the city council on what we need?
Correct.
Okay, because I was wondering how that worked, because if we had a city planner, we would go directly to the mayor. I didn't know if the mayor made that decision to say, we need you to look at, say, a section in Marlborough, but that would come, okay, it comes from us through the mayor to you.
Correct.
Okay, because in all respects, it's city planning, so that's why I was curious how that worked. Dues and subscriptions, page 3-12, $22,500. What are we paying in dues and subscriptions for $22,500?
So the biggest piece of that is actually $13,000 subscription that is called CoStar, which is
CoStar?
CoStar, which is a database. It's a real estate database that allows us to be able to do site selection. When a company approaches Marlborough and is looking for space, we have access to all of the real estate data within the community.
Okay. And and one more question on this page. The media contractor, $25,000. What's provided and what's provided under that line item?
So commonly Jill Roberts, that's Jill, our media contractor who does all of our content, video content creation, podcast, any of the videos that you're seeing are coming from that line.
Okay, and that's part of that other line item we talked about too with the promotion, the previous question I had on media contractor, and then you had media relations a couple pages back.
No, they're
No,
separate.
media contractor goes to Jill's.
It's
is
just
Jill.
strictly for her services. And I think one more page, we'll see. No, it was just, I was going to say, we presently have in the available balance 1.9 million, and this body may know that and I thank you for your answers. They weren't that bad, were they? Those questions were just generic questions.
Thank you.
But, Mr. Chair, in my review of this, I know there's money in The funds that we collect from hotel tax, by the
Correct,
way,
the
Marlborough.
optional- the
Yep,
optional.
Marlborough has 1.9 million. So I know we have the money, but Marlborough's going to be having some big projects going on. And presently, this money is only meant for economic development and business and economic development. And that's by state legislation that was created through a council vote back in 2011. We are going to have some major projects down the road, and it's not for this discussion tonight, but I will be discussing that in further detail at future council meetings. But again, I support the toolbox, but I can't support the additional position. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, thank you, Counselor. Counselor Doucette, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you very much. Councilor Orem did cover some of the issues that I had. The biggest issue I thought was the Phantom Gourmet, because that's a big chunk of the budget. And what are the metrics to see how effective it is? I mean, we're spending a lot of money with them. How do we know we're getting our money back?
So I don't have the stats off the top of my head, Counselor, but we do track impressions, we track how many it sounds silly, but Facebook Lives that they're able to do for the different restaurants in the community. We're able to actually track how many views all of those lives get, how many people then come into the restaurants. We're talking to, say, Kennedy's, where they were just there 2 weeks ago, and getting different footage, things like that. So it's all based on media impressions, which I do have all those figures, I just don't have them with me tonight.
Okay, that's fine. I would like to see them at some point.
Absolutely.
I'll catch up with you.
The other piece I do want to mention too, the Metro West Visitors Bureau does help us cover a portion of that. And so typically year over year, we're able to roll some of it over to help fund for the next year, but it is a partnership that we're doing with the Metro West Visitors Tourism Bureau.
Okay, so it's almost like a matching funding for that with Phantom Gourmet, or is that just more of a broader type of marketing? Does it only impact Phantom Gourmet, does it affect other marketing campaigns that you have?
Oh, no, that's just, so Metro West Visitors is the regional tourism bureau
Yes.
for Metro West. And so
Right.
we partner with them in Marlborough. They give us funds to help support this initiative.
Okay. So that's income for MEDC specifically, or is it just like matching grants and Phantom Gourmet sees
So
checks from both?
we budget the total amount that it
Uh-huh.
costs to go with Phantom, and then we apply for a grant through Metro West Visitors Bureau. Last year, they gave us $15,000 to help offset some of the cost,
Okay,
which we then pay Metro West Visitors Bureau. They pay the bill to Phantom Gourmet.
okay, so even though it's budgeted that amount, we end up paying less than that?
Correct.
Okay. Also, you started in 2015 or 2016?
15.
15, okay. The same time I started.
Going to be 9 years in July.
Yeah. It's an amazing team that you guys have. You really do a great job.
Thank you.
I think that, the other part of this is basically, we get taxes from, meals tax and hotels tax to pay for business development. And, is there any other town or city, municipality within the state that has done a similar approach like MEDC?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so we're pretty unique from that side. And also, what you're asking for is a chunk of what we have money assigned to basically do your type of work. So I don't see, it's a hard time to say that money is going to go, that would be going to economic development, MEDC, not necessarily could be applied to other parts of the city budget. And I think that has to be clarified, because, the money that's there can only be used in certain ways, such as MEDC. If there are other projects that come down the pike, we can talk about that at some point, but I think it's important to understand this is all about economic development. So I think the results of how MEDC has really invigorated the industry around Marlborough has been amazing. Has Moderna started business, or are they still working?
So Tin and I actually meet with them on a monthly basis to kind of go over their progress and what they're doing. They're moving along, but not quite open for business yet.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious as far as when that, so, anyway, I'm not voting in the committee, but I'll definitely vote for you guys when it comes to the council. So.
Thank you, Councilor.
I will go to Councilor Roby. Did you have a question?
No, I did not have a question. I was just going to continue to reiterate the fact that the funds that are being requested come from a special revenue account that was set up by the city council, and I believe that MEDC is the only funding that it can be used for. So we can have a conversation in the future, but I think as in the past, it will go nowhere. There's certainly plenty of funding. Although I may disagree with some of the toolbox choices, I don't have a say in what those are, so that's my issue, not yours. I can support the increase of both the toolbox and wish the people the best, and hope for the best for the people who are getting the funds, and that they will succeed in their location. I also support the need for staff. I know how hard the people that are sitting in that office work, and you need more help, because we need to keep growing Marlborough and making sure that you're there to do that work. Thank you.
If I can just respond to,
absolutely.
if you have any feedback on the toolbox recipients, we'd be happy to take them offline, Counselor, and take that into consideration for future requests.
Except that we only know about it after the fact, so.
I'm saying if it could help influence the future applicants, I'd be happy to talk about it.
Okay, thank you. Council Vital, you have a question?
Just, MEDC has kind of like two masters, right? They have they have our body, which will ultimately approve or turn down the budget, but they also have their own board of directors. Is that not correct? And that board of directors is 20 or so who's who of greater Marlborough business people, right?
That is
and I suspect that you presented your budget to your finance committee, and they scrutinized it, and then it went in front of your board of directors, and they scrutinized it. So what we're seeing here is, in fact, something that's already been looked over by the best business people of Marlborough.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. And I'd like to add, too, when I first met Meredith, she helped me in Ward 5 with the Armory, and that was, never knowing, because you were the assistant at the time, and just going down the future, it was just an amazing process, and eventually we did get something accomplished, so I was very happy with that and the support.
Thank you.
Councilor Navin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There is not a probably public or semi-public event that any of us go to in this city where one of the three of you are not present. Generally speaking, you're also probably there setting something up or taking something down, or if it's an event that you are not responsible for, you are likely still there, setting something up or taking something down. I was not in the room when back when MEDC and its formative years was being created, but I tend to think that the scope of your responsibility was not what it is now, and I think that we are benefiting from the fact that it has expanded. I think the reason MEDC was created, and you have been extremely successful at executing that plan to the benefit, of the taxpayers of our community, to both keep the tax rate responsible and predictable, but also, to grow our economic base. This was created for the residents of Marlborough. It was not created for large corporations to, benefit. That said, I think you guys have done so in a responsible manner where everybody has kind of been able to benefit in this ecosystem. That said, in my opinion, the way that MEDC has evolved, I guess the word I would use is holistic. You guys are here for multiple levels of people. It is not just the Modernas and the Sartoriuses, which we are grateful you are here for them, and we are grateful to have their employees and their tax dollars here. But you are here for small businesses. You are here for residents. You are here, for everybody, because it's not just simply about economic development, though that is the driver, but it is building the kind of community that I think we all are hoping to have. So I'm grateful for that. I think the toolbox is an excellent example. I've talked to several of the people who have been awarded it. The number one theme that comes from folks when they talk about the toolbox is how helpful your team has been, how easy it's made. If you are a small business owner, I am not a small business owner. I know of one who is here with us, but I know several small business owners who they don't have the time to sit here and look at another application for something to figure out how they can help. They have a need, and that need can also benefit them and can also benefit the community, but they don't have the ability necessarily to balance what is required to go and apply for that money. And everyone who I've talked to who has received one has said that MEDC has been so helpful, and it was basically like, I just had to show up with the information and they filled it out. They helped us get there. And so I think that's a credit to you. I am certainly supportive of increasing that funding. I want to thank you guys for all I cannot believe it's only been 4 years since the Food Truck Festival. Like, when I read that, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I feel like I've been going to that Food Truck Festival for decades. And really, that's a credit to you for building these types of community events that we are looking for. So again, I thank you for that. And I don't have any questions. I do want to touch on, because we do talk a lot about the city planning services. And it's one that, I often like to look at both sides of this issue. And I know we're not going to talk about it tonight, but I do think it's important to recognize how accessible you guys are to everybody. Councilor Vital mentioned you serve several different people, right? You have many customers, but primarily you treat us as the city council as your customer, the mayor's office as your customer, the business community as your customer. We have, I think, a tremendous amount of access to MEDC. You guys are always offering us the ability to come in and talk. You always answer my phone call. I appreciate it. You are perhaps one of the few staff that I enjoy arguing with, and I think enjoys arguing with me, and often helps inform me better about the positions that we're taking here. You have this ability to help us plan in a way that I'm not sure a city planner necessarily would. The services that you provide help inform us to make other decisions, which is wonderful. I am concerned personally that as a department head, a city planner who would report directly to the mayor would have one particular view in mind. And that is not to speak of any mayor, but is just of that mayor. And so I often don't feel that we may be getting quite a well-rounded view. And so I appreciate the fact that you guys are there to help us figure that out, and that also you are there and you have the funds that we have put aside to help us access the experts. So I think that is another helpful service that you all provide that we don't often talk enough about. And I don't think, and I say this personally, I often think to turn to you all enough to access those dollars and that expertise from external partners. So I think it's something that we should all consider to do in the future as we do look at the projects that will be coming down the pike. And finally, just another thing that has come up from many of our conversations is that you really do sit down with your team for about 10 minutes and you learn about all that really is going on in the city, that's going on behind the scenes. You guys work incredibly hard to build up not just the community, but to build up Main Street. You guys put so many lines in the water looking for fish to bite, and you are doing it for the right businesses and for the right environment that we want to create down here. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Name. Councilor Landers.
Yeah, thank goodness most chair people can't work to their left, so I'm always the last one, almost the last one. I could go on forever, but we're running into the urban meeting, and I'm part of that. All I can say, we're the envy of so many communities out there. I mean, I was down in Framingham last week at a ribbon cutting ceremony for housing, and they talk about it. Residents, Hampton Gomez, they talk about that. Don, how the hell do you guys get on that, I mean, I know there's a fee connected with it, but I guess some of us have to realize that MEDC is big league. I mean, you guys are involved in a lot of good things for the city, and to do that, you need money. So of course I would support the additional man hours, because I like those. I call them, MEDC's dog houses down there. But I love that, and I love to brag about those. I mean, it's kind of unique. I mean, MEDC is unique, and when we bump into people outside, you mentioned, or someone mentioned that I can see, and give you guys credit, MEDC, the mayor's office, and the chamber is gonna, I think, get together a little more. And I've always said over the years, when you get those three bodies working together, there's no stopping the city of Marlborough. So, as you know, I support you in, most things. The other thing is just to some of my colleagues, I don't know, do I drop in once or twice a month?
A week?
But it's good to get out. I mean, I drop in on all department heads. If I'm near the fire station, I'll drop down there. And, it's just, having a talk. And I'll tell you, you guys are really worth bragging about. So that's all, Mr. Chairman. But
Good points,
somehow you got to
Councilman.
start going to your left. I have trouble with other department heads, too, or other chair people. They always, Clancy did it, too. They don't work this way, they go that way.
Good points, Councilman. Mr. President.
Miss Roby's not looking over this way.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I sit on the MEDC board, I'm on the executive board, and yes, Councilor Vital, you are 100% correct. I scrutinize, or some may say torture, MEDC no different than I do the city department budgets. All right, so I go through them with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that the city's getting what they deserve. And I'll just put it simply, MEDC is the major factor in why taxes this year went down. They are a huge contributor. You look at what's going on in Boston, and they are struggling to look at ways to raise their taxes and raise their residential rates to be able to accommodate that and shift the burden to the commercial. It's huge. So again, to Meredith and the team, well done. After these two transfers, assuming they pass, there's still over $1 million in the hotel fund for economic development. I will mention that because of the governor's policy with the housing of the open housing policy, we are losing money because we had two, now we have one hotel offline that we're not collecting revenue from. So that's impacting us. So we're losing funding due to that. So, Mr. Chairman, I hope the Finance Committee will make a motion to approve both transfers this evening because MEDC is just doing the job that needs to be done to keep taxes in check and basically Marlborough thriving. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. Thank you for those points because we do see a lot in the news recently with the city of Boston. Yeah, that's going to be a lot to go through the weeds. At this point, I will entertain a motion. We'll take it in two votes. The first one would be for the budget, and then the second, we'll take another motion for the toolbox. So I will entertain a motion. Councilor Facillo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will make a motion to approve the transfer request in the amount of $762,465 to fund the FY 2025 operating budget.
Thank you. Motion's been made. I will second that to approve transfer request from Economic Development to Marlborough Economic Development Corporation in the amount of $762,465 to fund the FY 2025 MEDC's operating budget. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Carries 4. Anyone opposed? 1 in opposition. Thank you, Council. I will entertain a motion for the next item for the $150,000 toolbox transfer. Councilor Facillo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would motion to approve the transfer of $150,000 to replenish the toolbox fund.
Thank you. I will second that motion. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the $150,000 to replenish the existing toolbox fund to continue to support MEDC's small business financial incentives. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carries 5-0. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor? We are adjourned at 7:19 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.